And welcome to my channel. Unless you're new here, and then just welcome. My name is Rusty, and this is my channel where I talk about my favorite movies, mostly horror, and my favorite music, mostly metal. And I just watched a couple of movies, one new, one kind of older, and I thought I would jump on and do some quick takes. And we are going to be discussing 2023's, or I'm going to be giving a quick take on 2023's Silent Night. Got it with slipcase. Finally got around to watching it. Now, Silent Night was released in 2023, rated R, an hour and 44 minutes. It directed by John Woo, written by Robert Archer Lynn, starring Joel Kinnaman, Kid Cudi, and Harold Torres. Now, I was really excited to get this because, as I've said plenty of times, vengeance horror, which is a subgenre of horror in my opinion, is my third favorite. You have slashers, killer kids, and vengeance. Those are my top three favorite ones. Hello, Miss C. How are you doing? Glad to see you're still around. But yes, let me get this out of the way. So we started this. I sat down and finally was able to watch it, and it was pretty amazing. I had a really, really good time with it. This movie centers around Brian, which is this dude right here. He is happily married, and he has a little boy. I don't know. He's like, I don't know, maybe six, somewhere between like 6 and 8. His son is pretty young, and they are just hanging out in the front yard of their nice little home. Um, yes, sometimes I have to do that too to pass the time that seems to go too fast, but then it never does. So this guy is like hanging out in his front yard with his wife, and there's like a couple of gangsters. The autos come down the road. They're chasing each other. They're shooting at each other, and bim, bam, boom, they shoot up into his yard and his house. Now, of course, they weren't like aiming at them. That was not their target. Their target was each other. It was sort of like a Mad Max duel in an automobile. And when the dust settled, both Brian and his son had been shot. And it was a really awful scene. And the son was pretty much instant, killed instantly. And he was shot in the throat, you know. And so the story moves on with him, of course, being taken to the hospital. He, of course, and where it hit him in the throat, he is unable to speak. He's unable to talk, which is a new take on the word Silent Night. So, and it is Christmas time. So it is a Christmas movie, but, it's like another take on the word silent. So he is mute. He can't speak. He tries to. He is, of course, completely devastated. The anger builds up in him so intensely that his wife ends up eventually leaving him, not because they're having issues, but he has become an issue in and of himself. And that is that he is completely consumed with these actions that had killed his kid. And he ends up, going to the cops. And of course, the cops are useless, as you would imagine. No, it is not a remake. It isn't a slasher. It's a vengeance movie. It's a movie on its own. Unlike the other couple of Silent Night movies, it's not that kind of movie. So he is the he is the bringer of vengeance. This is a complete vengeance movie. It's not a slasher like Silent Night, Deadly Night, or the 2012 Silent Night re-thing, whatever that was, which is really good. But so it's not that. So he ends up, when the cops are not able to do anything, he ends up, doing it himself, and that is he starts customizing a car. He starts working out in the basement. There's lots of scenes of him becoming this muscle bound bringer of vengeance. And he then takes off and begins to execute his plan, which is an amazing amount of carnage. This is a very bloody, very gory movie as far as his taking vengeance on these gangsters. He learns who they are, where they are, um, who the boss was, and you know, we end up in this huge amount. And he's like taking them all out on like Christmas Eve, which is why it's a Christmas movie. So he ends up like taking them out one by one in various and 10 by 10 in various like attacks and stuff. Now, meanwhile, there is the detective who is so sorry he could never help, like some detectives are, who begins to notice the pattern of these gangsters, all like these giant clashes where bunches of gangsters ends up dead. And he begins to follow it, and he sort of kind of gets an idea that this guy Brian might be involved and might be part of it. So he starts trying to track him, while at the same time this guy is just going about his business. He does end up finally making it to the top boss man, the top gangster, where they are in an absolutely amazing showdown, bloody, gory showdown. Um, and with him and the chick that he had with him, the boss's main squeeze or whatever, a gangster girl. He's the gangster boss and she's the gangster girl, and he shoots her up with all kind of narcotics. And it's really good. And the cop arrives, the detective arrives at the very end and actually assists. And when all is said and done, he is very, very hurt, very busted up, but he has achieved his goal, which is the destruction of all of these people. And the movie is, that's the movie. It's a total vengeance action flick. Now, my one gripe about the movie was that there were periods during this movie that I'm not really sure why they did it. I think at the time earlier when I watched it, I think what I thought in the back of me head was they are trying to keep him from being the superhero like Jodie Foster in Brave One and Chuck, Charles Bronson in Death Wish. And that is that we want him to get really hurt and not be like a bullet sponge. And so, but still, there were times, you want your vengeance hero to be heroic, to be the bullet sponge. And so there were times that I found dudes really getting beat up to be a hero. So I had to kind of like think, why are they doing that? Why are they not making him the Superman of vengeance, especially since he spent all that time training, right? How to drive a car like a speedster. All of his weightlifting and his, karate and stuff like that. But yet he really got his butt handed to him on many, many occasions during this night of bloody carnage, to the point where I was a little disappointed in how badly he was getting his butt beat, you know. And But then I kind of understood at the same time was I was like, well, he was just a dad. He was just your neighborhood dad who actually did pretty good now that you think about it, um, with who he was facing off against. And he did manage to kill, gosh, at least what? The body count in this movie is like 60, 65. I mean, so there's a lot of blood and carnage, and he does manage to do what he sets out to do. But there was that little period where I was like, I kind of want my hero. And I had to think back to the other vengeance heroes like Jim in Revenge and Charles Bronson in Death Wish. You know, he got popped a couple of times too. Um, and Jodie Foster had that horrible thing happen to her. So, you know, I guess it's understandable. These aren't superheroes that were trained to be. Um, this isn't the Marvel universe. This is supposed to be exaggerated real life. And I was able to like put my disappointment aside with how often he got his ass handed to him on a regular basis. So, um, because in the end, he still won every fight. He still took them all out. He still did what he was supposed to do, but he got extremely beaten in the process. But then again, wouldn't you? You know, I mean, you might train yourself up to be able to do what he did, but I'm sure you would take a good ass kicking as well while you were doing it, you know. So I understood that part. And in the end, I found it very, very acceptable. And I really enjoyed it by the end. That nagging disappointment of him not being Captain Marvel, um, you know, and getting completely beaten the hell out of on several occasions. It did kind of subside. And overall, I was very satisfied. The action is amazing. All of it takes place at, you know, the main part of the movie when he's doing all the carnage. It, of course, takes place on Christmas Eve. So it is at night. Great cinematography, the action scenes. That scene where he initially confronts them, you know, because when his kid got shot, he went running down after the cars who done it and managed to get a pole and bust the windshield of one of the main gangsters. That scene was one of the most coolest scenes I'd ever seen when the truck flips over the fire hydrant and stuff. That was absolutely amazing. And then that's when they did that to his throat that made him silent. Um, I don't recall him ever getting, I mean, I just saw it, but I don't recall him getting his voice back. So I don't know if it's permanent or what, but that was Silent Night and he was Silent Death. And it was, so I had a really good time with this movie. Uh, Let me know in the comments what you think about it. If you liked it, if you had um, any yays or nays about the content, but I really didn't. I had that little bit of disappointment that he wasn't the superhero, but at the end, though, it was, I guess it was more realistic for him to have his ass handed to him like he should have, like a normal person would, yet still achieve the goal. And that was to take all of these people out from the minions to the boss. And he took them all out, which was the whole point. And so, yeah, I really, really enjoyed this movie. If you haven't seen it, be prepared for a really good time. You know, you have the horrible stuff that happens at the beginning, and then you watch him for a while pumping up. But once the action starts, it is a full force Keanu Reeves and speed. You know, it's a full force train ride after that. So thank you, Missy, for stopping by. I'm going to jump off and then I'm going to jump back on and I'm going to talk about the second movie that I watched earlier, that I felt I wanted to say something about. So, yes, that was Silent Night from 2023. I'd love to hear what you thought about it. And that was my little live quick take after viewing the movie. And I will see you in the next one. Love you, miss you, bye bye. Always remember and never forget you're a very, very special person. And if anybody ever tries to tell you anything different, they are lying. No matter what's going on in the world around you, you are fantastic. And I will see you then. Bye bye.